been turned down 2 years in a row, is I've been working with Tim Casey, who's part of the Waukesha County for Growth. We have a number of the communities like Oconomowoc, New Berlin, Menominee Falls, Brookfield that have all signed up for this program. And basically what they're doing is working with the city to help reach out to get areas of the city developed. And just recently had a meeting with JMAC as well. They have 5.5% funding, bridge funding for businesses or property owners that want to develop their property. Unfortunately, to become a member, it requires a $4,000 annual commitment out of the operating budget. And 2 years in a row, the City Council has struck that from the budget. So even though it's been struck from the budget, I continue to meet with Tim Casey 2 or 3 times a year to go over these different opportunities. And we're working on the outskirts, but not officially. So those are the 2 things I'm doing to try to move towards being a more proactive person in development.
So, David, if I can just, I guess one of the things that I really question whether we need to spend $12,500 to create a plan. I think that we have a lot of people within this room and also within the community who have a lot of opinions on what our city should look like and what we should be doing. I don't think this is something that we need to hire out to an external consultant who has visited Delafield twice. Being a consultant, I kind of understand how that process works. And I think that this is really something that we could save the money, especially right now, knowing that our budget is so tight, and try to bring this in-house. Try to figure out how we activate this community to actually think about what our future is going to look like. And, you know, I just really, as much as I think that yes, we need a plan, I also don't think that we need to be spending money, especially not $12,000 at this point, until we have a strong vision and strategy for what our city wants to be, and also making sure that the citizens have provided their feedback and that we haven't had the opportunity and we haven't come up with something good on our own.
So, question for Kent, and you alluded to this before, particularly with respect to the historic downtown. Architecture and design is a topic at almost every plan commission meeting. And you mentioned the historic Williamsburg Lang look. I'd like you both to sort of share your own views on the appropriate architecture in historic downtown, the role of the Lang, the Lang look, and what that should look like going forward. Ken, can you start with?
Sure. So, like I said, the survey results, 90% of the people that live in the city of Delafield, the only people that live in the city of Delafield, are saying that that's an important characteristic to them, right? My view on that is, again, a balanced view. It's a strong number, 90%. But what we need to do is my position is I'd like to have complementary architecture to the Lang look, right? It doesn't have to be a cookie cutter example. If you want to do that, fine. But it needs to be complementary. It needs to appear to come from a similar time period. Historic downtown is a destination. You can talk to our promotion and tourism committee. I mean, that's what they promote. They promote the downtown, they promote the Laughlin Peak, they promote the lake. I mean, these are the things that make downtown and the city of Delafield unique. And it needs to be complementary, I think is the phrasing that I think best describes something that the majority of the people in the city of Delafield can work with. So that would be my plan. That's how I would continue. There are a number of other parcels that are very likely to be developed in the next few years here. So this is going to be an ongoing discussion. That's why I mentioned about changing the CBD1 zoning. It's not just this one Hendricks building. There's a sequence of buildings that are most likely going to take place over the next few years. So it's important to have this discussion. It's important to have these meetings and get citizens input in addition to the surveys.
Just brief follow-up on that. Can you identify, Kent, a building in downtown Delafield that, putting aside some of the older buildings, a recent building that if you had your choice, you would have not approved?
Sure. I think you and I were on the planning commission at the same time when that one took place, and that was the Well Street building.
You mean the apartment
buildings, right? Yeah. It's, you know, the architectural drawings that were shown to us as the planning commission members. You know, the applicant was there. It had gone through probably a 6-month period of time of review and then back and review and back. And I purposely asked the applicant twice during the meeting, point blank, and it's on videotape, have you made any architectural changes to the building? And the applicant responds, no. And I asked a second time the same question. And unfortunately, they had submitted drawings to the city. At the city's fault, did not include them in the e-packet. And when we made a motion to approve that building, the applicant didn't tell us the truth during the meeting, and the city failed in getting the proper documents into the e-packet for everyone to see. And that building ended up being built the way it is. It's not a horrible building, but it sure was a different expectation of what we thought we were doing compared to what we actually did.
Sandra,
Anybody need ice?
we're doing the best we can. Sandra, can you sort of to back up to the higher level of generality, you know, what your thoughts are on architecture and design in the city of Delafield, and then also if you'd be willing to identify a building that you would have liked to see not built or built in a different design, we'd like to hear that as well.
So I think one question I have for Ken first is, what was the survey question that you are referring to? How was it questioned when people are saying that they like the Williamsburg
Sure.
downtown? And the reason I'm asking this question is because I think that the way that a question is asked on a survey really kind of, it directs the way that the answer is going to be. So if we ask people, do you like the downtown Williamsburg architecture? Most people are going to say yes, because they do. I like it. But that doesn't mean that I would like to not see something else that in our downtown or something that's different. So that question.
Yeah, sure. Do you feel that downtown Delafield should continue to promote the Williamsburg architecture character as it is today? I misspoke, 89% of the applicants chose the answer yes.
Ken, do you know what the number of respondents were?
Yeah, so we sent this out to all households in the city of Delafield, which was approximately 3,000, and the response rate was about 7%, which seems low when you think about it, but from a survey perspective, it's actually a statistically valid number. And then you say to yourself, you know, who were these people that responded to this survey? So 56% of them describe themselves as an executive, administrative, professional, technical, or salesperson. 35% of them describe themselves as retired. So between those two groups, that's 91% of the applicants. So I think fairly, you know, reasonably representative of the citizens of Delafield.
So, Sandra, I want to take it back to you to sort of tell us what do you think? What about design and architecture?
I mean, I think that the Williamsburg architecture that we have downtown is very charming and it's very cute. I think that we cannot continue building just that. I think when you look at places that have character and have history, you see buildings. Let's take Europe, for example. We have very traditional buildings in Europe, in Rome, such as the Colosseum. Now, what if Rome had continued building only buildings like that, or said that that was the only type of building that they could have? Well, their architecture wouldn't have actually morphed and evolved with the times. I think that we need to look and think that when we're putting in a building, we're putting in a building that represents the time frame that that building was developed. And I do understand that the Lang buildings that are the Williamsburg buildings in downtown were put in the 90s. I also know that many of the residents who now love these buildings were not in favor of those buildings and did not like the development as they were going in back in the 90s. So I think that we need to kind of look at this as, what does our city want to be? How do we get there? And then how do we help a new generation make their mark on this city? We have to really look at both the architecture of the city, but also the what it's going to attract. And we need to make sure that we're going to be able to attract future generations into this city to want to live, work, and play. And I think that our architecture is going to make a difference on the way that we move that forward. The building that I wish wasn't in our downtown is honestly our library. I think that it does not fit with the rest of the buildings down here. I think that the red brick with it has very little character to me. So I mean, I know that that was probably a building implemented because it was a very efficient way to construct a building. But at the same time, I think that, you know, we really could have done a better job of making that a more interesting facade and something that would have brought some of the downtown character and kind of small town Main Street character into our Genesee Street.
So my next question, I'll start with you, Sandra.